Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to GameClock, your new favorite sports show. I'm your host, Michael Pales, and today we're going to be breaking down Week 9, talking about Week 10, and talking about the massive trade deadline we just saw during the trade deadline. It was crazy. We had 4 major trades, a lot of picks, and a lot of major players making major moves. Thought it was the NBA for a second. But let's get into what just happened in this past week of NFL action. Now taking a look, let's get this clock running, and let's begin. Taking a look at these NFL scores, we started on Thursday night with the Ravens against the Dolphins. The Ravens manhandled the Dolphins. The Dolphins are looking at a point where they're going to have to rebuild. Mike McDaniels is probably on his way out. There was a lot of people that were excited for Lamar Jackson's return, and Lamar showed up. A lot of people were like, okay, Lamar's back. We see him. He's going to be playing well. The Ravens could have a very impressive second half of this season that could lead them to possibly a playoff push. The Dolphins, they just need to tank. They need a reset. Right now, Tua Tagovailoa, the signing that he had, his major contract, is looking like a massive blunder by the Dolphins front office. He is signed for a multi-year contract, and this is something that you're like, okay, marquee player of our franchise, this is who we want, and Tua has not been looking good. Mike McDaniels and his scheme has not been looking good. And with that being said, they're probably going to start rebuilding, start retooling. If I'm not mistaken, I believe they fired their GM. I'm not sure which team fired their GM, but there was a GM firing recently. But for the Ravens, they looked good, they looked strong, and obviously take the score as a grain of salt because it was against the Miami Dolphins, but for the Ravens offense, there were a lot of signs of life being brought back into them that they were missing. Moving on to the 49ers versus the Giants, Mac Jones looked good once again, and I think that the more that I see Mac Jones play, the more I'm like, he's a competent starter. He is a good player that just needs the right system. I don't think he's as good as Brock Purdy, but he very well could be a valuable trade asset for the 49ers come this offseason when there's going to be teams that are going to be looking for new quarterbacks. I'll talk about the team I think is going to be looking for a new quarterback and probably going to offload their main guy in a little while. But for the Giants' perspective, Jackson Dart has no help. I think if you're a Giants fan, the moment Cam got hurt was the moment you were like, okay, this is a bummer. But we're going to be able to bounce back because we have Jackson Dart. And if you look at it from a perspective of let's rebuild, he's without Malik Neighbors, he's without Cam Scatterbo, he's really without help for Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart's showing that to be the most promising rookie quarterback, and I think that he's going to continue to succeed once they put players in place for him to succeed. And right now they just don't have that. They don't have the assets to do that. For the Niners, the Niners are once again looking good. They're a strong team. The record right now is 6-3 with Mac Jones at the helm. And so I don't see a world where the Niners are necessarily going to miss the playoffs. The Niners are playing good football, and I don't think they have as many questions when it comes to who's going to be the starter as another team does. But Brock Purdy, once he gets his foot back in health, will have his starting job back. But the question will be said, when's Brock coming back? And when is that going to be, hopefully, the point where you see the Niners take the next step? Chargers-Titans. The Chargers made this way too close of a game. Herbert did not look very good once he lost Joe Alt for the season. Like, Joe Alt is out for the season. He has no offensive line help, and so he's just going to be ripe for the slaughter when it comes to these teams that are going to have edge rushers. This was a rough game, and this wasn't a good pass rush from the Titans. This wasn't a team that you expect, oh, they're going to be coming at him firing guns a-blazing. This is a team that you're like, how did you sack him? That's how bad this defense has looked for the Titans. And from that perspective, you have to recognize that the Chargers, although they have a good record, are probably going to start to falter because they don't have that. Because they don't have the protection that they had with Joel, Rashawn Slater. They're just such a weak O-line now that it's going to be reflected in the statistics. If Herbert is able to keep winning, Herbert is carrying this team on his back. And that is what I will say about that. The Titans Titans are one of the worst teams in the NFL, plain and simple. And I think from that, when you look at it from that perspective, there's not much you can do as a Titans fan. You just kind of gotta hope that when the right hiring happens and when you get the pieces around Cam Ward, that he'll succeed. But right now, that's not what it's looking like. The shocker in Detroit. Detroit losing at home against the Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy had a different form in this game against the Lions. The Lions were a team that were coming out into this with they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Don't touch them because the stove's hot. That's how hot they were. You could have gotten third-degree burns with how hot this team was. And the Vikings said, okay, cool, we're wearing oven mitts and grabbing it and just saying, yeah, we'll manhandle them. And they were able to eke out the win against a very strong Detroit opponent. J.J. McCarthy looked good. He was making the right reads. He was putting the ball in the right place. And he was getting the ball to the right people and the right players. And from that perspective, the Vikings were able to win this game. And that excites me as someone who lives in Minnesota because there's hope for the Vikings. They didn't have hope with Carson Wentz. They did not have hope with their other backup. They just were at a point where they were like, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't work out, we are done for the season. And J.J. McCarthy came back after being injured and put on a show against one of the top teams in the NFL, arguably the number one team in the NFC. And that is just such an impressive thing to see for the Vikings. For the Lions, any given Sunday, you brush it off, really, if you're the Lions. The Lions, they've been on such a hot streak that you had to be like, yeah, we're going to lose one or two, but this was not the one I necessarily expected them to lose. I do, however, see them bouncing back from this. Much like the Vikings lost, they're going to lose one to their division opponents. This is the NFC North. The NFC North is notorious for splits. They are a very, very good division in football, and I've expected something along these lines to happen. So, if you're a Vikings fan, be excited because J.J. McCarthy might have arrived. If you're a Lions fan, no hard feelings. Don't sweat it. You guys will bounce back next week. The Falcons lose based on a missed PAT. They lost because of a missed PAT. The Falcons kicker missed a PAT. I know I'm saying this so many times, but as a kicker, a PAT is one of the things that should be automatic. It should be the thing that every single time you do it, you make it. And obviously, I'm not a NFL kicker. I've tried kicking in the past. It is not an easy thing to do. And I by no means am going to armchair kicker and say, oh, he should have made that. But when you're getting paid millions of dollars, you really should. And that was the difference between a win and a loss. The Patriots looked stifled somewhat. They played well, obviously. Drake May played well, but not to the level that they've been playing at. And the Falcons played a good game. Drake London had 3 touchdowns. He had an insane game. The Michael Penix Drake London connection is showing up and showing out. But you can't lose a game because of a missed PAT. And that's really hard when you look at the game and you're like, okay, everyone played at good levels. Where did we lose this game? It's 1 point. You're looking at it. There's 1 point right there that's the difference between a win and a loss. And that's the hard thing for the Falcons to stomach. Because the Falcons right now are 3-5. They're probably out of contention for the NFC South. And that's just a really hard thing to deal with when that's really your only ticket to the playoffs from the NFC side. So, Patriots eke out another one. The Patriots are obviously one of the top 4 teams in the AFC right now, and it looks like they could have a shot at winning their division, but I have the feeling the Bills will bounce back. The Bills will keep winning. We'll talk about the Bills a little bit later, but they are a very, very tough team to beat right now, and I think the Patriots will probably end up being a 5 or 6 seed just based off of projections and where I think people will fall. Colts take their second loss of the season against the Steelers. This Steelers defense had Daniel Jones looking like he was back in New York. He was making terrible decisions, multiple interceptions, not to mention the fact that Jonathan Taylor just could not get going. He could not get to the level that he's been playing at where he breaks a run. Most of the time, he's the engine that makes this offense turn, and when Jonathan Taylor's not going, you have to lean more in the pass game, and when they're able to lean more in the pass game, it relies more on Daniel Jones. And when Daniel Jones is put in awkward and precarious situations, it doesn't succeed. from a Steelers perspective, huge win. Aaron Rodgers looked good. He's hitting his tight ends. This tight end unit on this Steelers team is just so good. It's probably the second best tight end room in the NFL. I would say number one's probably the Buffalo Bills with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. But the Steelers are just playing very well, very sound football. And that's what you want. The Colts, this was an out-of-character game, but I expect to see them bounce back in this upcoming week. The Colts will come back, Jonathan Taylor will go back to form, and we will see the Steelers do the Steelers thing. And then we'll be getting on to the next one once we begin the second quarter. Second quarter clock is running. Broncos-Texans. The Broncos might be one of the best fourth quarter teams in the NFL. The Broncos have really struggled to string games together where they don't suck in the first three quarters. They are really struggling to succeed in the first three quarters of football. And then the fourth quarter comes around and Bo Nix apparently just turns into prime Tom Brady because he's able to put the ball where he's supposed to and he's able to play at a high level, and he's done this 3 games in a row. So for Bo Nix, congratulations, you're winning games, but you are making every single person in your fan base sweat profusely because of the fact that you are keeping these games so close. For the Texans, really hard hit on CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, prayers for CJ Stroud as he took such a brutal concussion, and he will be out this upcoming week, and that will play a factor when it comes to my predictions for this upcoming week. But from a sense of the Broncos played well-ish. Again, they played well in the fourth quarter, but outside of that, they really didn't. 18 points is not what you want, but you win by a field goal, and a win is a win. The Bears-Bengals. This might be one of the best games of the year. 47-42. There was no defense played. If anyone gets this reference, Big Ten football is what the Broncos-Texans game was. Pac-12 football back in the day, that's what the Bears and Bengals did. No defense, all offense. 47 points. This game was not a close game. Mind you, the Bengals were losing by 2 touchdowns. Late, with I believe it was something like 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and they were able to mount an epic comeback and be able to come back and be able to make it a close game. And then Colston Loveland caught a touchdown pass from Caleb Williams with no time left. They were starting on their opposing, I think it was 30. And you have Colston Loveland across the middle seam route, deep cover 2, and both of the safeties missed their tackle, and Colston Loveland just runs his way to the end zone like it's a 40-yard dash. And you got to feel for the Cincinnati Bengals, man. Their defense is so bad, and it is so brutal as a player to be like, we just put up 42 points on this team. 42! And you guys gave up 47! It's so difficult as a player, from a player's perspective. That locker room has to be divided if you're the Bengals. Because you see it. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Flacco, this offense is playing at a very high level, but their defense cannot stop a team. The Bears put up 47. Caleb Williams had two catches. I believe one was a touchdown. The Bears, great win. Great win for the Bears. They needed a win. They needed a marquee win, and this was one. Clutch time, Colston Loveland. For the Bengals, they did nothing at the trade deadline to shore up their defense. They just got to hope that they can somehow outscore teams. But if every game's a shootout, you're going to end up having games like this. Panthers go to Lambeau and beat the Packers. Once again, another game where you had a player miss a PAT. The Panthers kicker missed a PAT because Rico Dowdle got flagged for doing the Hingle McCringleberry 3 pumps, but he only did 2, and they still got flagged him. So, either way, Panthers beat the Packers. This game doesn't make sense. Mind you, a lot of people think of the Panthers and they think of this 0-6, 0-7, 0-8 team. This team is 5-4 right now. They're higher in the NFC South than the Atlanta Falcons. The Panthers have a better chance of winning the NFC South than the Falcons. That is a mind-boggling thought. If you look at the team the past 2 years, Bryce Young's playing at a high level. When Bryce Young plays, they have a chance to win. Rico Dowdle has said, this is my job, and he has been establishing himself as the number one back in Carolina. Their defense held the Packers and Jordan Love to 13 points. Jordan Love threw, I'm pretty sure, 3 or 4 pick interceptions. It was only one. I could have sworn he threw more. Maybe not. Either way, a lot of this game was just won by defense, and the Panthers were able to eke it out against the Packers. And if that's the case, then you just got to hope that your team's able to win not these bad games. If I'm a Packers fan, I feel really rough because these are not the games you want to lose. You don't want to lose the games to these teams that really aren't at the same caliber. Lose to the teams like the Lions. Lose to the teams like the like the Chiefs, like the Bills. These teams that are good teams, the Patriots. Lose to these top 5 teams. Don't lose to these teams that are middle tier. No, we don't know whether they're going to finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs, or whether they're going to make a late push, or whether they're going to have a midseason collapse. This is not a team where you're like, I don't know about their future. You should not be losing to teams that aren't contenders, and the Panthers are not contenders. But man, did they look like some on Sunday. Saints-Rams. Tyler Shaw got his first career touchdown. Congrats to Tyler Shaw, I believe. The Rams are a very, very good football team. The Saints are not. This game was just absolute domination by the Rams. Their defense was in the backfield often against Tyler Shaw. There was very, very little success offensively for the Rams. And the Rams, the Saints mixed them up. The Saints did not have a lot of success. The Rams, on the other hand, were playing all over them. Devontae Adams had a touchdown catch. Kyron Williams had a touchdown. Tyler Higbee had a touchdown. Matt Stafford is playing at an MVP level right now. 38-year-old Matt Stafford's playing at an MVP level right now, and I don't think people are really keeping up with it. I think he's top 5 in MVP right now. I think he is top 5 in the MVP race right now. I'd argue he might be top 3. Because if he keeps putting up games like this, he's going to end up getting darn close to winning an MVP. Jacksonville Jaguars go to Allegiant Field and beat the Raiders. The Raiders looked decent this week. It looked like a better team. Ashton Genty looked good, not to mention Brock Bowers having one of his best games of this season. He's back and better than ever. Geno Smith was playing, and this game was a close one, but it came down to a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. It was a very close game. It was a great game to see. It was a really fun one, but Geno Smith's ball got batted down, and that's the way she wrote. And so, for a Jags perspective, good bounce-back win. Maybe have a shot at sneaking into a wild card spot for the Raiders. They just gotta tank. They just gotta recognize, hey, this is not our year. We gotta retool. We gotta not screw ourselves by getting ourselves out of the top 5 because of some wins. Chiefs-Bills. The Bills beat the Chiefs. And all I will say about this game, because this game was a great game. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's a great game. But it's the regular season. Josh Allen, I believe, is 4-1 against Patrick Mahomes in the regular season. But is 0-3 in the postseason. This game doesn't matter. It's great for the Bills. It's great for the Bills to win this game. It's great for the Bills to be able to get another win and be able to push their way to winning their division for another year in a row. The Chiefs are in a really weird spot because there's a possibility they miss out on the playoffs if they're not careful, if they don't start winning games. But for the Bills, great game. Great game, but it doesn't matter until it's the postseason. Seahawks versus the Commanders. The Seahawks look like probably the second or if not the first best team in the NFC right now. They are very good. I'm eating my words when it comes to the level that the Seahawks are playing. The Seahawks are playing at a very, very high level. Jack Smith-Njigba is looking like a offensive player of the year candidate. They are playing out of their mind. For the Commanders, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for Commanders fans out there. Jaden Daniels had one of the most brutal elbow injuries I've ever seen in my life, and he is out for the season. And that means that the season is probably over for the Commanders. Marcus Mariota is not going to lead them to the playoffs. And so the Seahawks have a chance at winning the NFC West. This is a very competitive NFC West, and it'll be very interesting to see how it comes down the stretch. The Commanders, they're done for the season. Okay, this is going to go into overtime because I don't care. I need 2 minutes. I'm going to stop the clock right here. I'm going to add 2 minutes to the clock. We're going to edit the timer. We're adding 2 minutes to the clock because I need a moment for this. Okay, 2 minutes. Cardinals, Cowboys. Cardinals get a great win. The Cardinals are able to manhandle the Cowboys defense. The Cowboys defense, once again, is clearly not there. The Cowboys defense is not playing at a high level, is not playing well, and I think as a result of that, we are going to be seeing more and more situations where this is the deal. They put up some points, but if your defense is able to stifle them, you're done, and you're cooked. The Cowboys offense could have played better. Dak Prescott didn't play very well. Javonte had a very bad game-sealing fumble. From a Cardinals perspective, Walter Nolan came back and was healthy and had a sack on I believe he was one of maybe 2 rookies that had a sack, 2 TFLs, and a pass breakup in his rookie start. He is playing very well, and the Cardinals clearly, if he continues to maintain this, hit on their first-round pick. That puts us to the other side of the ball. Kyler Murray is on the outs with the Cardinals. He got put on IR, but I think that the Kyler Murray era in Arizona is coming to a close. Jacoby Brissett has been better in almost every statistical category as the quarterback with the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are going to have to move on from Kyler Murray. And if I'm Jonathan Gannon and Monty Osfort, Kyler wasn't their guy. Steve Keim brought in Kyler. They're going to make Kyler the fall guy. That's how they maintain and get another year and another chance to retool and play well. This defense played exceptionally well against this Cowboys offense, and I very well could see if they continue to maintain success that Jacoby Brissett is the guy, and both Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride have been playing very well. It clearly, when it comes to the Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. connection, the problem wasn't Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's what I'll say about Week 9, but we're going to be going in and talking about the trade deadline. Now, as we start the clock, get the clock started for halftime, 5-minute start. Okay, talking about the trade deadline. There were 4 major trades that happened in the trade deadline. 2 of them involved the Jets, and 2 of them involved the Jags/the Saints. The Seattle Seahawks traded for Rashid Shaheed. This is a big deal because I think the Seahawks are recognizing that Jackson Smith-Njigba cannot do everything. He cannot be their only guy when it comes to them succeeding this season. They needed him to take a step up, and this is how they do it. And so they needed to get another guy that can really take a significant load, and they were like, Rashid Shaheed is that guy. The Saints recognized, hey, we're probably not going to win this season, so let's just trade him away and move on with our lives. When it comes to the trade between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Raiders traded Jacoby Myers, and that presents questions for the Jags of, hey, do they not trust Brian Thomas Jr.? Brian Thomas Jr. might be one of the bigger losers of this trade deadline because Travis Hunter's on IR, so they needed another wide receiver. They went and got Jacoby Myers, who is a very good receiver and is probably going to take a big jump when it comes to his production because he has not been used well by Geno Smith. I think that he will be better used with with Trevor Lawrence and with Liam Cohen at the helm as an offensive coordinator. Then we get to the blockbuster trades. The New York Jets traded Sauce Gardner for Adonai Mitchell, a first-round pick, 2 firsts, 2026, 2027. This has massive implications from a perspective of, here's how I'll say it. I think this is a great trade for both of these teams. If you are the Indianapolis Colts, you're clearly at the best chance you've had of making a solid playoff push and winning a Super Bowl since Andrew Luck/Peyton Manning. Andrew Luck when they had some playoff success, but then he retired. But since Andrew Luck retired, this is the best chance they've had of making a push for the playoffs. And it was smart to go and get Sauce Gardner. The thing that they needed to shore up on their defense was their secondary. And what did they do? Go and get a premier cornerback in the NFL. I don't think he's been as good as his rookie year, but he is still a top 5 corner. If you're the Jets, you get a young wide receiver, you get 2 first-round picks, and now you're sitting there, you're like, okay, we have capital. We're going to be able to succeed. And that was a big deal for the Jets, is that they are in a spot where they know they've lost, and they're going to tank, and they're going to get as much capital as they can so Aaron Glenn can have a chance to build the team. Teams that have succeeded have gone through hard times early on in their career. Dan Campbell went 3-13 in his first season, but they didn't fire him. They let him stay. He built a culture, and he built a winner. If the Jets are smart, they're going to do the same thing with Aaron Glenn. They're going to let Aaron Glenn help build the team, build a culture, and make a winner. And now they're going to have the capital to do that. This is what literally what the Lions did. They traded away Jared Goff and got a bunch of capital and were able to build one of the best teams in the NFL. The same thing I think is going to happen with the Jets, because the Jets also made a different trade, and they traded Quinnen Williams to the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys said, hey, we need some help on the defensive side. Quinnen Mitchell will make a difference, but he is not a premier edge rusher like Micah Parsons. And I think the Cowboys are at a point where I think their playoff hopes are done. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this season, and I don't think Quinnen Mitchell is going to pull the needle. But from the Jets' perspective, they got another first-round pick and a second-rounder, and they're going to be coming into this draft with 4 first-round picks. Now, obviously, the Indianapolis Colts one this year is probably going to be more like an early second, but regardless, you're going to have 4 first-round picks, and premier draft capital is important because it means that they can actually do what they need to do, which is draft well and build their team. Now looking at the aspect of the Colts. The Colts were able to get Sauce Gardner, and I think that this is a great trade. This trade deadline was chaos. This was chaotic. Everyone thought it was going to be, Logan Wilson got traded for a 7th-round pick to the Cowboys. Like, that's kind of what they were expecting. And then we had one of the biggest trades. 2 faces of the franchise. Literally, the Jets, their faces of their franchise was Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, and Quinnen Williams. And they traded 2 out of the 3 of those. I feel bad for Breece Hall. He was in trade rumors this entire season, but he didn't end up getting traded. Feel bad for Breece Hall because he's stuck with this 1-17. But what I will say is that this trade deadline was one to remember, and it'll be very exciting to see how this plays out in the next week, which as the clock is winding down, we're going to talk about a bit more as we get into this next week of football. 1 second, let me start the clock. Let me get this timer rolling. As the clock rolls, tomorrow, Broncos versus Raiders. Who made this a primetime game? Okay, sorry. Ignoring the fact that they made probably going to be one of the biggest bloodbaths we're going to see in this season, the Broncos are going to manhandle the Raiders. There's no sugarcoating it. The Raiders are going to struggle against such a staunch defense that the Broncos have. Unless the Broncos do what they've been doing, which is keep the game close for the first 3 quarters and then just win the game in the 4th, which very well could happen. But I think this is going to be a game where we finally see a complete game from Bo Nix, and Bo Nix is actually going to be good first, second, third, 4th quarter, and we're actually going to see him succeed. So from that perspective, I think that that's what I'm looking for is I want to see Bo Nix play a full game. From the Raiders' perspective, I want to see Ashton Genty go off again, and I want to see Brock Bowers go off again. Geno Smith needs to realize for him to succeed, he needs to feed the right guys. And to feed the right guys, you have to feed Genty and you have to feed Bowers. Those are the future of the Raiders franchise. Not Geno. Not, I don't remember his name, Tucker. There are some players that are not the guy for them. And so from that perspective, that's what I'll say. Broncos are going to go in here and handle business against the Raiders. This is at Denver. Yeah, the Raiders are going to get smacked in this game. I'm sorry, Raiders Nation, but Broncos are going to conquer you. And then we have another international game. This is an international game, Colts-Falcons. This is going to be a really fun one. This one, I believe, is in Berlin, Germany. Germany getting one of their first games since, I believe, NFL Europe. Falcons playing the Colts. It'll be a really interesting one. The Colts are, quote, the home team in Berlin. But what I expect to see from the Colts is they're going to have a bounce back game. I think the Falcons are going to, once again, they're going to keep it close, but I think the Colts are going to have their bounce back game. They just lost to the Steelers, and they're probably at this point where they're like, we probably shouldn't have lost that game. We need to let up some steam, and they're going to pound the rock against the Falcons. This game could be a very interesting game because it could be a very run-heavy game because the pass-heavy game, especially now that Drake London's probably going to get shut down by Ahmad Gardner. Sauce is going to be the one on Drake London. Drake London's going to be locked down by Sauce, and we're going to start to see Bijan Robinson tote the rock a bit more. And I want to see that. Berlin is going to get a ground and pound kind of game, and I think that's what we want to see. We want to see a big game from the Colts defensively. I think the Colts win this game in Berlin. Going to be a fun one. It's going to be up early, 8:30 a.m., just to go see the Falcons lose to the Colts in Germany. Browns Jets. Wow. Okay. This is going to be an interesting game. The Browns are going to beat the Jets. That's what I'm going to say. The Jets just weakened their defense. They got rid of Quinnen Williams. They got rid of Sauce Gardner. And for the Browns, they got a bye week. They're going to be coming back healthy. They're going to be coming back feeling good, feeling refreshed. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to go and beat the Jets in MetLife Stadium. And so this game really can only be summed up to, this would be a battle of the defenses. The Jets' offense is not going to be able to handle themselves against the Browns' defense. The Browns' defense is one of the best in the league, and it's just not going to play well for the Jets. The Jets are not going to be able to stop the offense of the Browns. You just gave up one of your premier corners and defensive tackles. The Browns are going to be able to run the ball better, and they're going to be able to pass the ball better against the Jets. I think this is going to be a slaughter in MetLife Stadium on November 9th. Saints-Panthers. The Saints coming into Carolina. Tyler Shaw in his second game. Panthers coming off one of the biggest wins of their season against the Packers. I don't think it's any surprise, but I say the Panthers are going to win this. The Panthers played very well against the Packers. And they're going to come in and they're going to be at home. Rico Dowdle's going to tote the rock some more because he's won the number one job. Because that was the issue, is that in past games, it's been a split backfield. Rico Dowdle wasn't really the guy. He was the guy because Chuba Hubbard was hurt. But now Chuba Hubbard's hurt. Not hurt, he's healthy, but Rico Dowdle's the guy. And I think that the Panthers are going to lean on him, lean on Tedero McMillan and Bryce Young. And I think that that's going to be a win for them. And the Panthers are going to continue to hold themselves in a close game with, not close game, this is going to be a blowout against the Saints, who are a team that is literally going to be the team that's sucking, trying to get that first overall pick. Patriots-Buccaneers. The Patriots coming into this game against the Buccaneers is going to be an interesting one. Baker Mayfield coming off of the bye week, along with Emeka Mbuka. I believe Emeka is healthy. That I'm not sure of. There's a game preview here, but Emeka Mbuka, if healthy, will be the number one target for Baker Mayfield. I want to see Baker go back to his MVP form. That's what I'm really looking for when it comes to the MVP. When it comes to Baker Mayfield, I want to see him play like an MVP because he's going up against the guy that right now, in my opinion, is the number one leader in MVP. Not in odds, like not gambling-wise, the books or the Vegas has it at like Josh Allen being number one. But I think right now, if you ask most people, they'd be like, if you said, hey, I think Drake May is going to win the MVP, they would be like, yeah, that makes sense. I don't think that that's an out-of-pocket or out-of-turn thing to say. 1 second. I need some water real fast. Never mind, I don't have water. I think that the Patriots are going to come into this game and they're going to be like, we need to win. This is a must-win game for both teams. Both of these teams, this is the turning point for their season. When I say that, I mean if the Patriots win this game, they could win out. I think that, not win out, but they could easily get maybe one or two more losses the rest of the season. If I'm the Buccaneers need to win this game. They need to win against a contender because they are coming off of a loss. I believe it was against the Seahawks. They're coming off a loss against the... Where's the Buccaneers? Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I am trying to find who they are. Oh, no, they're coming off a win against the Saints. Never mind. They're going to come back and it's going to be a very interesting game. I want to see interesting things from both these teams. I want to see both quarterbacks play well. I want to see how they handle these defenses. This is going to be a really fun game to watch. If I'm any of these noon games, the game I'm picking to watch is going to be that Patriots-Buccaneers game, because that is going to be the best game. I think this is probably the primetime game would be my assumption, but Drake May has been playing at a very high level, and if he maintains that, I think the Patriots win this game against the Buccaneers. Ravens-Vikings. The Ravens are playing in Minnesota, and Lamar's back, but J.J. McCarthy is also back. He really wasn't there beforehand, but now he's back, and now he's going to be playing at a high level. And this game, I really lean towards the Ravens, but when the Vikings have played against poor defenses, which obviously the Ravens' defense is nowhere near as bad as the Bengals, but when the Vikings have played against poor defenses, they've been able to succeed. They were able to put up 27 points against a very stout Detroit Lions defense, and the Detroit Lions are a much better defense than the Ravens. So this is going to be probably a shootout, but I'm really going to, you know what? I'm making a bold take. I think the Vikings win this game. I think even though Lamar Jackson's healthy, I think Lamar Jackson is the only thing that makes me want to say the Ravens win this game. And obviously, Lamar Jackson can be the difference maker, and almost always is the difference maker for the Ravens. But J.J. McCarthy played at a very high level. Against the Lions, making the right plays against a tough defense and a tough pass rush from Aiden Hutchinson. The Ravens don't have that same kind of pass rush. So unless the Ravens can get the ground game going, which is really something that I think they need to do if they're going to beat the Vikings, I truly believe that the winning team of this game is going to be the Minnesota Vikings here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Buffalo Bills, Dolphins. Dolphins lose. The Bills win this game very handedly. If I'm the Dolphins, what I want to see is a loss, because if I'm a Dolphins fan right now, I believe the Dolphins are in control of their own pick. If I'm a Dolphins fan, and you know Mike McDaniels is on the outs, and you know that Tua's probably going to get probably done in Miami, you traded Jaden Phillips, you want to lose this game. If I'm the Dolphins, I want to lose this game. If I'm a Dolphins fan, I want them to lose this game. I want that number one overall pick, because high draft picks are so impactful for franchises. That's the thing, is a good draft pick can be the difference between a team being a contender or not. Jaden Daniels has literally been the difference for why the Commanders are good or not. The Commanders cannot win without Jaden Daniels. The Dolphins need a guy like Jaden Daniels, a guy that is a game changer, and they need that with a first overall pick. As that is the third quarter, put the force up. Let's keep going here as we talk about Week 10. Bills, I want Josh Allen to have a masterclass. This is a game where I want to see Josh Allen succeed without James Cook having a good game. That sounds weird to say. James Cook is almost always the one that establishes a good game for Josh Allen. Josh Allen tends to not struggle, but tends to not play as well unless James Cook is going off. I want to see a game where James Cook has a down week and Josh Allen says, let me pick up the slack and put up numbers. I want to see a game that we point out and we're like, that's when Josh Allen truly cemented himself as the MVP winner. That's where I fall. That's how I feel about this team coming into this week in their noon game against Miami. Giants Bears. The Bears win this game. The Giants, fun. They're a fun team to watch if you like Jackson Dart. If you like seeing him get all delivering the ball and watching his receivers drop it. Wan'Dale Robinson. I think the Bears win this game. I think their offense is significantly better. I think Abdul Carter and Kayvon Thibodeau have been playing pretty well. They've been able to get out the quarterback against teams that don't have necessarily the best O-line. But I think the Bears are going to win this game. The Bears are going to continue to stay as a contender. They're going to probably miss the playoffs by one game and break the hopes and dreams of every young Bears fans out there. But they're going to be a fun team to watch. The Giants, on the other hand, right now, you almost want to lose as a Giants fan. It was fun to watch when Cam Skattebo was going off and when you had these players going, yeah, we're winning games, we're being competitive. when Cam Scatterbo got hurt, I think there's a mental shift of we should lose so we can get a better draft pick. I know I've said this for like 4 or 5 teams, but when I say the number 1 overall pick can change an organization, or the number 2 or 3 overall pick can change an organization, I truly do mean it. There are teams where that number 1 overall pick, that number 2 overall pick, that number 3 overall pick have been the reason that their team is good. The Patriots obviously have made smart decisions when it comes to an organization, but Drake May was a high overall draft pick. They picked him, and that has been the shift for them. You can get your franchise guy with these high picks. Obviously, you can find diamonds in the rough and things like that, but you shouldn't bank on it. You should bank on a high overall draft pick. And if I'm the Giants, I'm like, we need good O-line help. We need a good skill player. We need something to be that spark. A good defensive player, a good cornerback, a good DB. To get those, you need to have those high picks, those high value picks. And I think that that's what the Giants are probably looking at. And the Giants are probably like, a loss would probably be better for them. Because I think their team is not poised to make a playoff run. And if you're a team that just falls into mediocrity, it's not worth it. That 16th, 17th, 18th draft pick are brutal to have as an organization, because it's like, okay, we missed the playoffs. We didn't have playoff success. We didn't make the playoffs. And we don't have a low draft pick. It's the worst position to be in as an organization. And I think the Giants are probably going to want to avoid that. So they're probably going to want to lose a couple more games and give Jackson Dart tools to succeed come next year. So I have Bears winning that game in Chicago. Jags versus the Texans. The Jaguars are going to come in and win this game. The Houston Texans are having their backup start. I don't even know who their backup is. I don't even know who their backup is, but it might still be Davis Mills. I'm not sure, but the Texans are going to lose this game. The Texans have struggled when C.J. Stroud has not played well, and the idea that they're going to come in and win against a team that just had a very, very not strong win, but a very strong win when it comes to like offensively, and just got a little bit of juice in Jacoby Myers. I think that the Jaguars are going to come into Houston and win this game against Houston. I think Houston's going to struggle without C.J. Stroud, and he's not going to be able – and C.J. Stroud's out with a concussion. So, Jaguars are going to come in and beat Houston in Houston. Cardinals versus the Seahawks. Cardinals have said Jacoby Brissett will be the starter. They placed Kyler Murray on IR. This Cardinals team is a different Cardinals team than the team that played the Seahawks. I think the Cardinals are going to shock some people this week. They're going into Seattle. It's an afternoon game, and I think Jacoby Brissett and the Arizona Cardinals are going to beat the Seahawks. The Seahawks have been steamrolling people, and I'm aware of that. But this Cardinals team just snapped a 5-game losing streak, and they have said, hey, Jacoby's going to be our guy. And I think that we're going to see a very different outcome than we saw last time the Seahawks and Cardinals played. So I think the Cardinals are going to win this. And this is not bias. I think that the Cardinals are playing at a higher level than they have. I think they finally had a game where they closed the game out. And I think they're like, okay, let's do this. We won the game. We've done one. Now let's do it some more. And I think that that's what we're going to see, is we're going to see a high-level play from Jacoby Brissett, from Marvin Harrison Jr., from Trey McBride, and we're going to see them go into Seattle and beat the Seahawks. And I think that game could be the determining factor for who wins the West. Lions-Commanders. The Lions are going to win this game. The Commanders have not played well whenever Jaden Daniels isn't in. Jaden Daniels is out for the season. I think the Commanders are going to lose so many more games the rest of this season, because Marcus Mariota, though was great at one time, is no longer that guy. He has struggled immensely at times, and I think that the Commanders know, hey, we're done for the season. The moment that they saw Jaden Daniels' elbow go the opposite way of his arm, they knew that their season was over. So, Lions are going to win this game. They're going to have a good bounce-back game because they lost to the Vikings, and I think that this is a great game for them to have that bounce-back. Have that game that's like, okay, we just lost to the Vikings. Take a deep breath. Absolutely obliterate the Commanders. Let's keep the season going. Let's get hot back again. Let's put ourselves back on the stove, and let's heat back up. And that's this game is going to be. This game is going to be a 40-point game by the Lions by a wide margin. Rams-Niners, oh my gosh. This is going to be a great game. The Rams versus the 49ers. The Rams are coming into San Fran against, I believe, still McCorkle Jones. Mac Jones. Mac Jones has been playing well. I think that this is going to be a close game like it was last time, but I think the Rams are going to get their get back. I think the Rams are going to beat the Niners in San Fran in this afternoon game on November 9th. This game was a close game last time. It went to overtime last time, and the Niners were able to eke it out. I think this game is going to be a different conversation because the Rams have been hot, and although the Niners are coming off a good win against the Giants, they have not been nearly the same team and the same offensive caliber that this Rams team has been. Matt Stafford has been lighting it up, and I think it's going to happen once again this week against the 49ers. I think the Rams are going to win this game. Steelers-Chargers. I think the Steelers win this game. I look at this game and it reminds me of this Colts-Steelers game. The Colts were struggling against the Steelers defense, and that very much impacted it. And when they couldn't get the run game going, it led the pass game, and the pass game wasn't there for the Colts. I think that the Chargers are going to struggle because they don't have the O-line. I think TJ Watt is going to have a field day against Justin Herbert unless they double team him the entire game, but then it's going to leave those other pass rushers from the Steelers to be those impact players. And that's what's going to happen. There's going to be impact plays from impact players from the Steelers. And I think the Steelers are going to win this game off of defense alone. I think their offense is going to be good enough to win. That's what I think the Steelers offense has always been. I think that's what that is going to be once again. And so Steelers are going to win this game this Sunday Night Football against the Chargers in LA. Eagles-Packers. This could be the game that determines the number 1 seed for the NFC. The Eagles coming in off of a bye week against the Packers. The Packers have been saying, hey, we're the number 1 team in the NFC. Yeah. And then the Eagles have been like, what about us? You lost to the Giants? Oh, well, how about we beat you guys up? And I have a feeling that that's probably what's going to happen. I think the Packers are going to, obviously, Eagles coming into Lambeau. It's starting to get colder here up north. It's going to be a really close game. I think this is going to be one of the best Monday Night Football games of the season. And I think if I have to put my money on a team, it's got to be the Eagles. The Eagles have played more complete games. I think the Packers, though I love Micah Parsons and I love what they've done, they're coming off of a tough loss against the Panthers. The Eagles are coming off of a bye week where they've gotten healthy, they feel rejuvenated, and I think they're going to come in there and they're going to not light up the Packers, but they're going to definitely make this game interesting, and I think the Eagles are going to win this game. And I think that could be the determining factor for who gets the number 1 overall seed in the NFC West. And with that, the clock is running out. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. I hope to see you next time on GameClock, your new favorite sports show. If I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.